I want to remind people before we go to break here, on Mondays, I'm kind of making this on the network a 1-2 punch on Mondays and Tuesdays. Obviously, you gentlemen and I have been doing this program for quite some time on Tuesday, and it is popular. But I want to point the listeners to Monday when I'm doing a series of interviews with Ron P. McDonald and Dr. Robert Rowan. He's a doctor. They own it all, including you. And this is the period at the end of the sentence on what the Federal Reserve, the IRS, what liens we're under, what our obligations are. It ties everything in together. So these guys answer questions on every topic. It all ties back to that foreign currency known as the Federal Reserve note.
You're tuned in to the National Intel Report, the Real Talk Radio Show.
Play a short clip here. Lord Christopher Monckton, his warning when Barack Obama goes to Copenhagen over, the issue of global warming. This is how they're going to get us into the global order. And once in, guess what? It's like a Venus flytrap. Looks sweet, jump right in, you don't get out. He's warning on the U.S. sovereignty issue. This is very, very telling. And this was October 14th, 2009. He's a climate change expert.
What are we doing instead? At Copenhagen, this December, weeks away, a treaty will be signed. Your president will sign it. Most of the third world countries will sign it because they think they're going to get money out of it. Most of the left-wing regimes around the world, like the European Union, will rubber stamp it. Virtually nobody won't sign it. I have read that treaty. And what it says is this, that a world government is going to be created. The word government actually appears as the first of three purposes of the new entity. The second purpose is the transfer of wealth from the countries of the West to third world countries in satisfaction of what is called coyly a climate debt. Because we've been burning CO2 and they haven't, and we've been screwing up the climate. We haven't been screwing up the climate, but that's the line. And the third purpose of this new entity, this government, is enforcement. How many of you think that the word election or democracy or vote or ballot occurs anywhere in the 200 pages of that treaty? Quite right, it doesn't appear once. So at last, the communists who piled out of the Berlin Wall and into the environmental movement and took over Greenpeace, so that my friends who founded it left within a year because they'd captured it. Now the apotheosis is at hand. They are about to impose a communist world government on the world. You have a president who has very strong sympathies with that point of view. He's going to sign. He'll sign anything. He's a Nobel Peace Laureate. Of course he'll sign it. And the trouble is this. If that treaty is signed, your constitution says that it takes precedence over your constitution. And you can't resile from that treaty unless you get the agreement of all the other states parties. And because you'll be the biggest paying country, they're not going to let you out. So, thank you, America. You were the beacon of freedom for the world. It is a privilege merely to stand on this soil of freedom while it is still free. But in the next few weeks, unless you stop it, your president will sign your freedom, your democracy, and your prosperity away forever. And neither you nor any subsequent government you may elect will have any power whatsoever to take it back again. That is how serious it is. I have read the treaty. I've seen this stuff about government and climate debt and enforcement. They are going to do this to you, whether you like it or no. But I think it is here in your great nation, which I so love and I so admire. It is here that perhaps at this 11th hour, at the 59th minute and the 59th second, you will rise up and you will stop your president from signing that dreadful treaty. a purposeless treaty, for there is no problem with the climate, and even if there were, economically speaking, there's nothing we can do about it.
Very interesting. And, you know,
Lord Monckton.
yes. And is there any wonder why Barack Obama, the first U.S. president in our history, is going to have a seat on the General Council at the United Nations?
Well, let me guess a couple of phone calls you're going to get from that. And that is, people are going to argue that treaties do not trump the Constitution.
What Constitution?
Well, exactly. There's a trapdoor in the Constitution that will allow a treaty to trump the Constitution, which is what the UN Global Climate Treaty is all about. And what a lot of people have missed is every year, I think for the past 7 years, could be longer for all I know, is Ron Paul has identified this trapdoor. It's a reason that every year he introduces, excuse me, H.R. 1146, which is the American Sovereignty Restoration Act, which effectively would close all the trapdoors on treaties supplanting the Constitution. But when you look at the amount of votes that he gets on this thing each and every year, it's mind-boggling, less than half a dozen. So, yeah, I mean, this, I think it's a big deal, myself personally. But there's lots of, you know, I get into arguments with people, well, not arguments, discussions from time to time about whether the Constitution holds any validity, and I always seem to revert to the Second Amendment, where Congress shall make no law except for the first 20,000 of them.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and again, you know, the court system, you know, this is why I'm encouraging people to listen to the Monday broadcast, the special series that I'm doing there, because we're explaining in exhaustive detail why you can't walk into a court in the United States. I don't care if it's a municipal court, a federal court, it doesn't matter. The common law court, which holds near and dear to its heart your constitutional or God-given rights, it explains in detail why you can't walk into these maritime or admiralty courts, these commercial contract courts, or the administrative courts, and stand on any constitutional anything. It is, they have wiped out the venue for any stance on that. So, I hear the same argument, Robbie, that, well, they can't do that because it's unconstitutional. Well, okay, that's fine. You can say that, but when they wipe out the venue for any redress, anything to stop or slow these people down, it has been taken out of the mix. So where do you stand? You can be a sovereign. We've got into that discussion. You can extract yourself from the matrix. You end up being basically a stranger in a strange land. You have no country anymore because they've usurped it. They claim the authority. They have the administrative power. And they have the guns and the badges, and they have the courts. So where are you to turn for your sovereignty issues? Well, you can stand alone, because that's exactly the corner you've been painted in.
If Congress followed the Constitution, first of all, there would have been no Gulf War I, Gulf War II, and no Patriot Act.
Let's hear what the callers have to say. Kevin in Minnesota. Hello, Kevin. First up.